Hi, everybody. It's another episode of Dayton Drama Queens. I'm Josh Stucky.
And I'm Philip Drennen.
And again, we thank you for becoming loyal to our little brand here.
Yeah.
As we're taking off and starting to fly. And I know Philip is going to be more settled here in Dayton, Ohio, so we'll see a lot more of him.
Absolutely. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on who you talk to.
That is true. That is true. We have an exciting guest with us today from Discovery Classical. Shaun Yu, I've known for many, many years, and he's going to tell us all about his connection with that, how he ended up in Dayton, how Discovery Classical got started, all those good things. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Honor and pleasure.
Yes. Tell us a little bit about the station in general.
Sure. I think the best way is to look back at our past. You go back to almost 40 years. If you go back to the early 80s, Dayton, Ohio was the largest city in America without a classical music station.
Oh, wow.
And some major pillars in the community, people like Clark Haynes, John Barry Sr., John Conley, Ed Coons, Lloyd Bryant, they got together on a Saturday afternoon and gathered at a table. They literally passed a hat around the table and everybody put in $5. And that was the start of Dayton Public Radio.
Wow. What a cool story.
Yeah.
But you fast forward now.
Yeah.
Time was just about every city in America had a classical music radio station, but you fast forward now to 2024. Time reference, shouldn't I?
That's all right.
Yeah.
But you fast forward now, and the 100 biggest markets in the country, as defined by Nielsen, only 24 have a full-time, non-commercial classical music radio station. Dayton, Ohio is one of those 24.
That's incredible.
It speaks well of the community because without the community support, we wouldn't be here. But Discover Classical is a 24-hour non-commercial classical station broadcasting on 3 FM frequencies, 88.1 in Dayton, 89.1 in Springfield, and 89.9 in Greenville. And of course now, thanks to the internet and thanks to streaming, our mobile app, listeners in all 50 states, listeners all over the world. We have been pinged from Antarctica. Wow. I don't know if it was somebody on a cruise or maybe there's somebody.
There's a penguin out there.
There could be a penguin. It could be somebody at Murdo Station for all I know.
That's true.
But the fact that we've got a global audience, it's the kind of thing that the station's founders couldn't have even imagined back in the early 80s. But here we are today out of Dayton, Ohio.
Wow.
That's absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And now, how long have you been part of that?
I came here 17 years ago from Portland, Oregon, as the station's first program director.
Okay.
And I've been here ever since, still doing what I enjoy and enjoy doing what I do.
Yeah.
What kind of came first, the chicken or the egg here for you? Is it a really nice mixture of classical music and radio, or did one kind of come first for you and then the other followed?
Yeah, I've been a radio guy all my life.
Yeah.
I've been doing this since I was a teenager, playing 45s at my first radio station.
Well, your voice alone. I mean, can't you just? I just want to
relax into it.
Yeah, just curl up.
But I've been incredibly lucky. Honestly, I went to college and didn't think I was going to continue on in radio. I had been already doing it for several years. I had every intention of going to law school, but I played around at my college station, and suddenly, and out of the blue, I got a call from the #1 FM station in Portland, telling me that they had an overnight gig. So, as they said, just when you think you're out, they pull me back in. And I've had a charmed life. Radio has been an awfully good industry to me. But as far as how classical music intersected with my radio career, I lost my job in commercial radio one day. In fact, I talked about this in my TED Talk about classical music. And I ended up doing a morning show on the classical music station. But if I'm being honest, I was just looking for my next gig in top 40 or rock radio or something like that. But then I just had these moments with the music that transformed my life. And so for the last, going on 30 years now, it's all been in classical music. Because there is an incredible world to be discovered, thus Discover Classical. Because I think there is kind of there's a perceived barrier for a lot of folks. When they find out I work at a classical music station, inevitably the first thing that they say is, I don't really know much about classical music. And I'm trying to tell them, you don't need to know a thing.
Right.
That's okay. Yeah. That's perfectly okay.
Yes.
But there's this perceived barrier that you have to be a musicologist or have to have been a music student in order to enjoy classical music. And nothing could be further from the truth.
Absolutely.
What do you need to know about music to enjoy the majesty of Beethoven, to enjoy the melodies of Mozart or Vivaldi? You don't need to know a thing. Yeah. But if you do want to get into that world, there's an incredible world of history, events, lives lived, great stories to be found, and it can open up an entire world to people. Yeah. And that's what we try to do every day at the station.
So do you have a personal favorite when it comes to the
Oh, gosh, I've got lots. I've got lots. Where do you want to start?
Okay, well, yeah, I hear you. It's interesting.
But for somebody who wants to maybe dip their toe?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. What would you sort of introduce?
Aside from the usual suspects, Beethoven's 9 symphonies, Haydn's symphonies, what have you, once you get past that, I'm a sap, so I'm a Rachmaninoff. I'm a Rachmaninoff fan. Here is a Russian pianist who had these massive hands, and so was able to do things at the piano that very few could. Okay. And that allowed him to put together these melodies that mortals can't play, but he could bring it out in people. And so go to his piano concertos 2, 3, the Rhapsody on a Theme of Paganini. It's just wonderful tune after tune after tune. And so that's one of my personal loves.
I think people probably may think that they don't know a lot of classical music, but you think between film and television and media that people have consumed, they probably know a lot more than they think that they do, because they hear these, Mozart and they hear Vivaldi and they hear Rachmaninoff in these scores all the time. So I think if people were just to take a second and maybe look into that, they'd know a lot more than they think they do.
That's absolutely true. And you touched on something, Philip, about movie music. There is a school of thought that movie music doesn't have a place in the classical music world. I argue vehemently the other way. If you think about it, look, let's go back a couple hundred years. Franz Schubert wrote, when he was a teenager, incidental music for a staging of Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream. Because even then, before there were moving pictures, people understood how music can accentuate something that's going on stage, the drama of it. There's a reason why music is in movies, right? It accentuates what's on the screen. And so that's the original movie music. Schubert was the original writer of movie music. So when John Williams is able to write music that lifts us up into the air, just as Elliot and E.T. are going up on the bicycle, and John Williams' music takes us right into the air with them.
Documentary that just came out
about John Williams. Oh gosh,
you must watch it. It is incredible.
Okay.
But it talks so much about that, finding the emotion and writing that music to match what we're feeling there.
Yeah, and that's why it touches us, because we can feel that. We can feel what John Williams was trying to convey.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. So, I was an elementary school teacher, and I know in being an elementary school teacher, it was all about learning the classicals and getting the kids involved in that. Do you feel that's still kind of something that's going on in the schools? And a little bit?
I wish it was more so.
Me too. Me too.
Because all too often when school districts are facing budget shortfalls, what's the first thing that's cut? It's not the football team. Right. I promise you that. Yeah. But so often the arts and music are considered would be nice to have instead of a must have.
Yeah.
I saw something a number of years ago, a study of the brain, and it talked about it showed which regions of the brain are engaged when doing certain activities. Reading, doing math, music. Would it surprise anybody to find out that the same regions of the brain that are engaged when you're doing math are the same regions of the brain that are engaged when you're listening or playing music. Because music is mathematics plus emotion.
Yeah.
Mathematics plus emotion equals music. And I'm not saying that just by playing Bach and Mozart that your kids are going to become geniuses. But as young people, as the neurological pathways are being formed, why wouldn't you want to expose them to music and the arts? But if we are going to be serious about passing on a legacy of music and art to the next generation, you can't just talk the talk.
That's right.
And so I'm really proud of several things that we do, because we're not just a 24-hour classical music service. We're Dayton Public Radio. We are your public radio station. And when the community supports the station, as Dayton and the surrounding community has, you put a little something back in. So a couple of things that we do every year to make sure that the youth of our community are exposed to this music is, one, we have our Young Talent Search. A Young Talent Search that is open to all classical musicians 18 and younger. Blind audition.
Dang it.
Blind audition. We have no idea the artist's age or gender. And then we select anywhere.
I've never
from,
heard of this before. This is
and
cool.
then we will select anywhere from 5 to 7 young artists to celebrate. We put them on stage at our Rising Stars Gala. We treat these young artists like rock stars. The dressing room, the the drinks and the candy at the in the dressing room, and then they get to perform in front of an appreciative audience. And it's the kind of thing that you have to, we have to remember that these kinds of recognitions are important. It's easy for any number of kids to be named Athlete of the Week. Kid scores 5 touchdowns on a Friday night, Athlete of the Week. But these young artists who are spending hours and hours every day in devotion to their art, they need to be celebrated too. And so we're very pleased to do that. But also, one thing that we also want to make sure is that every young person in our community has access to a good instrument. There may be any number of obstacles for a young person in our community from studying music, but the lack of a good instrument should never be one of those. So years ago, we teamed up with the Dayton Philharmonic Volunteers Association, now Encore, because they had an instrument drive every year at 2nd Street Market, where people could drop off their instruments on Saturdays. And in any given year, they might collect about a dozen instruments or so. So we got involved one year. And with 40,000 weekly listeners, I knew that there had to be some instruments in the community that are just gathering dust somewhere. That first year we got involved, more than 50 instruments were collected.
Wow, that's so great.
So we were on to something. And so the following year, we took it a step further, and we partnered with our friends at Grismer Tire and Auto Service Centers. They opened up their stores. So it's very easy for people to donate their unneeded violin. Just take it to your local Grismer. So every summer they open all of their stores for people to drop off their instruments. And over the years, I'm very proud to say, last year we surpassed 1,000 instruments donated back to students in the Dayton community.
What a great program.
It's
Great thinking.
It's a little thing that we can do, but as I said, you have to walk the walk. Make sure that that young people have access to this music, and do everything we can to encourage that love as well.
Yeah, for sure.
I will tell you were speaking about Netflix a couple minutes ago. I saw a documentary recently about people that were donating old iPods, iPad, whatever those things are called, the little ear things, to Alzheimer's patients because they recall music from, other things they may not remember their daughter's name, but you put in a song that they knew, and they're singing the Andrews Sisters. And they're like, this connection is so real. I think as being a teacher, and any of us are involved in that music thing, you still remember songs to this day you learned as a kid. You will never forget.
Sure. Look
the
at Tony
power of
Bennett.
music.
Look at Tony Bennett.
Tony
Bennett, who's suffering from dementia.
Yes.
Lady Gaga, sits with him.
Yes.
He still sings every
It's
tune
unbelievable.
perfectly.
Yeah,
They
that's
said
what
the same with
music
Glenn
does.
Campbell. He did the
Yeah,
same thing. Got
right.
up on stage.
Well, I have a friend who's a music therapist, and she talks about a lot of her patients are nonverbal or maybe going through dementia, and that is just the way that it unlocks the brain is something that is just incredible. And I don't think anything other than music. And to Shaun's point, it unlocks those parts in your brain that nothing can do. I mean, both sides of the brain at the same time. With music, it's incredible.
Gives me goosebumps.
You think about all the senses. It's very intimate. It's very intimate because radio, in and of itself, is an intimate medium.
Yeah.
One sense. That's it.
Yeah.
That's impacted, and so people don't listen collectively to the radio anymore. You know, in the 50s, family would gather around the radio and kind of stare at the radio, right? But now everybody just listens individually. But that's why there's that connection there between our local announcers who bring some fantastic knowledge about the music and our listeners who continue to support it.
How many people work at Discover?
About half of them. No, the old joke. No, we're a small staff. We only have 8 full-time employees,
I
a
knew it
fair
was
number
small.
of part-time employees and contractors, but for the most part, only 8. It's a small but very mighty team.
It is mighty, for sure.
And this is our home. I take pride in the fact that we are a local station that, while we provide classical music for an audience globally, there's only one station in the world that plays the Dayton Philharmonic, and that's us.
Yeah, that's true.
52 weeks a year, we have a program called Live and Local where we record Dayton Philharmonic, chamber music in Yellow Springs, Springfield Symphony, the Bach Society of Dayton. And we rebroadcast it for our audience because, of course, we'd love to go to every concert in town, but who's got the time?
Yeah.
So 52 Saturdays a year, you can hear a performance by your very own local orchestra. And there's only one station that does that.
That's amazing. That is really amazing.
I love that about Dayton too. I mean, everything and everyone is just so connected here, and it has such a cyclical nature where, the Philharmonic is being played by Discover Classical, and, your neighbor's son or daughter might get an instrument. Yeah, I mean, there's just so much connection here. So what would you say if we wanted to contribute to Discover Classical, in the form of writing a check or volunteering, or, what are some opportunities for us as a community to help out?
Yeah, that's exactly how it works. It's funded primarily through the community. More than 60% of our annual funding comes directly from listeners of the station. During two of the most dreaded words in public media, pledge drives. We do 2 of those each year, once in the fall, once in the spring. But people writing $50, $100 checks once a year, that's how the station runs.
Yeah.
And what's so amazing is the listeners come through for us, pledge drive in, pledge drive out. What is truly astonishing, though, is that we are able to do this. And again, be one of 24 full-time non-commercial stations in the country with 0 debt.
Wow.
0 debt. So every dollar that gets contributed to the station goes right back into the station. It doesn't go towards servicing a major debt hanging over our heads. We've been able to operate in the black for a long, long time, and we have no plans on stopping. The community truly gets it. But reach out to the station as far, time, talent, and treasure. We value all 3 in equal measure. Reach out to the station. You'll find us very easily at discoverclassical.org, or call us at 222-WDPR. It's very easy, number to remember. We'll find a way.
Yeah. And you guys are located downtown. Where are you guys?
We're in the Loft Theater
That's
building.
what I thought.
Right next to the Victoria Theater.
Yeah.
We're very fortunate to have to be right at the center of it all.
Right.
The Dayton the Dayton Performing Arts Alliance is upstairs.
Yeah.
Dayton Live is next door. The Human Race Theater is a couple of floors up.
Awesome.
The Muse Machine. We're also wired to the Loft Theater, and when they were putting in the Schuster Center, they had the vision, the right vision to actually run cable underneath Main Street to our studios. And so we're able to broadcast live from the Schuster Center. We're also able to broadcast live from the Loft Theater. It's the kind of thing that a local public radio station can do, as long as the community supports it, and they do.
To Discover Classical. I mean, it's perfect in every way, and we appreciate you being here with us today.
Yes, thank you,
It's been an
Chad.
exciting time. Tell us once again, I think it's 88.1.
88.1 in Dayton.
Yep.
89.1 in Springfield. 89.9 FM in Greenville.
Yes.
And to a global audience at discoverclassical.org. You can also download our mobile app and stream us at discoverclassical.org.
This has been awesome. Thank you so much,
thanks
Shaun.
for coming
Gentlemen,
and hanging
thank
out with
you.
us.
Yeah, it's been wonderful.
And thanks for the swag. I will be
Yes.
wearing.
Me too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Me too.
The least I could do.
Yeah, well, it was wonderful. Thank you to our sponsor, Square One Salon and Spa. And we'll be back in a couple weeks with yet another episode of Dayton Drama
Drama
Queens.
Queens.
See you later. Thank you.